Hey guys, very good afternoon to each and everyone over here, and I welcome you all for this. And this is a brand new subject, and first day, first session of a subject called an ATC. The abbreviation of an ATC is a simple thing: an automata theory and its computation. Many will be having a doubt like what exactly automata theory and its computation. A main agenda behind automata theory and its computation is it's a mathematical model. It's a mathematical model for computer science. Okay, now many ask the question, sir, what do you mean by a mathematical model and what do you mean by computer science? And whenever we say about a computer science, it's a simple thing, guys. Whenever I run any code and what computer can do, what can't computer can do, this is the main agenda behind the computers. Like whenever we say about a computer, we measure a computer based on efficiency. We measure a computer based on efficiency might be with respect to a time, might be with respect to a space, might be with respect to many other factor where we compute it or the way we computer measure it. A main thing behind a mathematical model is a simple thing. Whenever we say about a mathematical model, it's a simple mathematics where a discrete mathematics subject is output. For example, sets, union, integration, and many more things. This is what about a mathematical modeling. And now many has a confusion. Sir, where does a mathematical model comes in a computer? And for this, like there are many other places where we do a mathematical modeling for the computer science. For the basic thing on the examples for a mathematical modeling is simple way. First, I will tell you like what exactly an agenda behind this subject. Because if someone have any intention going for a further studies, if someone have intention going towards a computer science in R&D field, and this is a subject where it plays a major role. Assume like I take a GRE exam for the further things. If I want to take a GRE exams or any other upgradation exam for computer science, this subject plays a major role. Why it plays a major role is like a subject where it has a combination of a computer science and method model. Later on, I'll be telling where exactly it be included with respect to a major thing called an application. First, let me explain where and all an application the given automata theory is been going with it. And as many might aware of the things, as many might know that I was handling a subject called a computer science, C programming. First, let me take an example for C programming. Yes. Now, the major thing is, sir, where does a C program come? Where does an automata come? Each and every program, whatever the program I write, whichever language I write, that doesn't matter. The main behind the program is called something called a compiler. Each and every compiler has to work with respect to the set of instructions given by a compiler. For example, I write a code, assume like I have to print from 1 to 20. Assume that I have to print from 1 to 20. How does a given C program know that I have to print 1 to 10 till 20? For example, I'll take something called I write a program. For a given program, I will give for a compiler. For a given compiler, I'll get something called an output. Now, who will be telling what exactly thing has to be done by a programmer? What output has to be given? Each and everything will be formatted. Each and everything will be mainly thing as formatted. What do you mean formatted? What do you mean formatted means a simple way. For example, I open a braces and I close a braces. This is a block of statements. This block of statements will be set with respect to an automata. This block of statements will be explained with respect to automata. For example, there's something called a for loop. For as a syntax, that syntax has been specified by an expression, and that expression will be set by a automata. This is one example which I want to see. And let me go with another one. Okay, let me go with a second example. I think this might be catchy for you. The thing is, I hope like many have been gone through entering your email ID in your websites. What exactly means? For example, let me take my email ID. I have typed my email ID as nrdweepu@gmail.com. Assume that this is my email ID. I had to type my email ID and I used to get verified. So what is the syntax we need to check on for a verification? Here, what I mean by expression is, the expression says that there should be some kind of a text. There should be some kind of a text where the text might include an underscore or dot kind of thing with a numeric, some kind of, followed with a symbol called at, followed with it again some text where this is a text based on a Gmail, Yahoo, Reddit or any other domain name systems, followed with a dot and followed with either a com, in, ac.in, any kind of thing. This is what we call it as a pattern. This is what we call it as a pattern. This is what we call it as a pattern. This pattern is being set by a given automata. Clear? For example, okay, sir, where do we prove it and how do we go with and how do we do? For this example, is there is a command in Unix. I hope you guys have been read up with. There is a command in Unix and there is a command in Linux. A command called grep, something called as grep command. I hope you guys have been gone through the command called a grep command. This is a command where we write a format, or in English we call something called as a format, but when it tells with respect to a technical language, we call that as something called as a pattern. For a given pattern, if it matches, then the given your email ID will be saved to your database, or else the email ID will not be saved to a database. So this was one more application where we go with an automata theory and its computation. Okay, let me tell you the next one. There are many more applications, guys. Like if I keep on telling about an n number of applications, there are many applications where I just want to make you easy and I want to make you calm to say like the given a subject called an automata is being used recent trending. For example, I'll go with my third one. The next one, besides there's something called natural language processing. There's something called a natural language processing. What do you mean by a natural language processing is, I think we named something called NLP. Okay, now I don't know like how many have been gone through the terminology called an NLP. NLP is a natural language processing. Here, whatever language I speak, it might be an English, it might be an Hindi, it might be a French, it might be a Germany or any other language. Whatever language I speak, that given language has to be converted to a machine understandable language. That machine understandable language has to process the given command, whatever you say. Once it is been processed and it has to get back the result. This is what you mean by a natural language process. For example, I think most of them have been gone through something called Alexa. Most of them have been gone through something called Alexa. What do you mean by Alexa? Oh, it's a set of it's a small instrument where I give a command. For example, hey Alexa, play me a song of Jessica Alba. So what does Alexa do? It goes to a list. It selects all the lists, all the songs sung by Jessica Alba. Then it gives a result. It says like there are 10 songs in Jessica Alba. Which song you want to select? I say one song. A given song will be played by Alexa. Or many other work has to be done. This what is called as a natural language processing. And now, why I said this is the main core thing is this comes under something called as an artificial intelligence. This comes something called an artificial intelligence. Currently and nowadays, many things is being boomed up with something called as an artificial intelligence. Now, I hope like you guys have been gone through at least a terminology called artificial intelligence, or there are few more things called as artificial intelligence. Nowadays, many applications are running under artificial intelligence. So, if I want to be an artificial intelligence developer, or if I want to produce a product of an artificial intelligence, such that I have to come across natural language processing. I'm telling this is one of an example for artificial intelligence. I want to go something called NLP, Natural Language and Processing. If I want to know something called NLP, this has been directly linked with a mathematical model of computers. What is the mathematical model of computers? It's nothing but an automata theory, where this has been directly linked with an automata theory. So what exactly we do? We write a pattern. For example, there is something called a linguistic problem. Like, for example, South Indian English is totally different from a North Indian English, and Indian English is totally different from US, UK, other language. For example, if a Tamilian speak in English, it sounds in a different way for an abroad people, and the same way everything called a differs. This is called a linguistic problem, where that linguistic problem will be come across with this, and here we cope up the things and we do. And this is a major thing, guys, where we go through with it and we deals with the given automata theory. And guys, again, tips given for you all as, for example, if and all you guys want to go through with something called as sir, I want to be an AI engineer, or I want to be an entrepreneur where I want to create a product of an AI. If so, you guys have to go through with a subject called automata theory. Here we give some basic details or a basic sets of how exactly a given programs work, or how exactly we have to frame up the given pattern. Here we save this. Even now, current trend, you can go to any software company or a software industry. Most of the industry, there is something called as R&D. What do you mean R&D? R&D stands for research and development. Each and every software company runs our R&D section. In that R&D section, most of the projects are running for an artificial intelligence. So assume I am an R&D in an AI, so that means to say I have to read a subject called an automata. If I know automata, I think we are a far better, guys. Again, I'm having a bet on it. I'll make sure the given subject seems to be very easy and very understandable for you. And I hope, like, after completion of your engineering, in an interview, they will ask you the thing like which are the subjects you know in the thing. If you name, for example, if an interviewer comes and asks an interview, and they will ask like, sir, which all the subject you have been learned? I will say DMS, DBMS, software engineering, data subject. If you mention, I know a subject called a formal language and automata, guys, seriously, the interviewer will be really impressed on you and he'll be asking a few questions. If you name 1, 2, and 3 examples, or these are the few applications where we are running out of an automata theory, the interviewer will be literally impressed and it will be really good, guys. Okay, this is what all about an application, and there are many other applications where we come up with, like the advanced version of this is something called as a compiler design. Next, the advanced version of a grep command and few more command will be read in a subject called compiler design. Okay, this is a subject, I mean to say, this is the advanced version of a subject of our automata, where you play something called a commands, how to write a commands, how to work on it, and each and everything will be held in a subject called a compiler design. And further of my classes, I'll be explaining how to write a code and what to be done, what not to be done, and a few more things. And this is all about an automata. And let me tell, like, what are the types of automata we have? What are the types of automata we have? What are the types of automata we have in a given thing? And let me explain where and all we play with. For example, the first one I name it as a finite automata. First one I name it as a finite automata. And in a finite automata, I write a given code kind of thing, and I write many more things. And next one I name it as push down automata. We also call this as PDA. There's something called as push down automata, and it's called as a PDA. Okay, now, so what is PDA stand and where a PDA come across? For example, in automata, if I learn something called a PDA, where can I incorporate the given PDA is like? As I have been telling you, the given C programming. I write a program, a set of programs, a chunk of a snippet, I will load it to a program, it gets compiles, and I get an output. As I will say you, a block of statement as I've been saying, your block of statement, each and every block by block, a bit by bit, a patch by patch is being directly given by PDA. Here where we define something called as a compiler. If not I want to write a compiler code or any other code, I will have to make use of something called as PDA, push down and automata. And next one is there's something called as, the third one is something called a Turing machine. Turing machine. Okay, and guys, this is the most important thing in a Turing machine, and currently a recent version of a Turing machine is being run in an R&D section. I mean to say, like as I've been telling you in a software company or many R&D work, it's called as a deep Turing machine. Something called as a deep Turing machine. What do you mean by a deep Turing machine? Like here where we come across the given thing. This calculates code complexity, space complexity, time complexity, and everything. The better example for a Turing machine is, I hope you have been gone through with this subject in a data structure. The thing, there's something called as halting theorem. There's something called as halting theorem. Okay, what do you mean a halting theorem? The halting theorem says, like, here there will be a set of input such that there will be a program called Q. For a given program Q will be loaded to program called P. For the given program P, I generate an output. My output says, like, if a program Q generate output to Q, if it is a program called Q, for example, I want to take a variable from Q to P. If the variable computes and gives a value to P, I will get an output. There is something called, yes, I'll get an output easily. I mean to say, I'll get an output easy. Something called yes. What if no? What if no? No means like simple. What if the variable I'm expecting something, that variable I didn't get a variable? So what I have to do at that time? Now here where then halting theorems come across. Here it says, assume I don't get an output. Now I have to calculate what is the time complexity. Like what is the time where the given variable has to work out, kind of thing. This is what a thing called a halting theorem. This was majorly done by a guy by the name of Turing. He was the one who invented automata, and this has been come across with him. And this is all about different types of an automata, which I'll be detailedly explaining in my further classes. And this is what a brief application where an automata works. And now this is what a thing, like I repeat the entire thing again just for you all for the convenient point of view. Nice. Okay, now yes, now we have came across a subject called an automata theory and its competition. Now here I have to tell, like, what is an automata theory? Automata theory is a simple thing. It's a mathematical model for a given computer. A mathematical model, it can be a software, it can be a hardware, it can be anything. It's a simple mathematical model for the given computer. This is a proper definition of an automata. So here, what do you mean by mathematical? What do you mean by modeling? What do you mean by computer? Computer meant to say, like, I have to calculate space complexity, time complexity, and many more complexity of given code based on the mathematics things. This is what's involved in a given model. And let me take a few examples and explain here again for you. First, I will take an example called a C programming. Why I've been taking a C programming? Because I feel like you guys have been well versed with a given program called C programming. I write a given code and I execute it and get an output. But for a user point of view, a user will never come to know what exactly a work done behind a code. For example, a computer generates an OBJ file. From OBJ file, it gets converted to an exe file. So this process, we, a user, will never come to know. This process is called something called as a pattern. The pattern is the given code has to be generated to OBJ. From OBJ, it has to be converted to an exe. From exe, the output will be generated. This process or this pattern is called as a compiler process. That compiler process should be defined by someone. Who will be the one who will be defining it? That will be defined by an automata. There is a set of instructions we call it as a pattern, and that pattern we use in a compiler, and even each and every automata means you will name any compiler, all the compiler use an automata. Okay, let me take a next example. I hope this example will be more easy for you to understand the things. For example, I write something called an email ID. I have to verify my email ID. Email ID as a simple thing. There will be a string followed with a symbol called @ and again a string followed with a dot. Then it is a string. A string can be com, co.in, ac.in, and many more things can be there. So this is what a pattern for my email ID. For the given pattern, I write something called a pattern matching, and that's something called as a regular expression. We name a pattern in other words called as a regular expression. A regular expression. Here in the given regular expression, I write this has to be in this format, so and so format. The length doesn't matter. There should be something called @ and so and so, so and so. And I just not use many other special symbol like hash, a few more things. I should never use it. This is what you mean by a pattern matching. And now I want you guys to recall it. Assume that I'm doing a pattern matching for name, first name. Simple thing. How to do a pattern matching for a single name? The name has to be in a single process. The name, for example, my name is Deepak, D-E-E-P-A-K. Should I want to end up the string, name string only less than 10? No. There are many other guys where the length is much bigger, higher one. For example, Yadunandana, the length of his name is much bigger than mine. So what we do? We don't freeze the number of things. So that has to be said in a pattern. Let me take one more example. Assume that you guys are doing a pattern matching for your mobile number. What you guys are doing? Simple thing. You'll be giving few clauses. First clause is the mobile number should always be with respect to numeric. Correct? Yes, it has to be a numeric, no special symbol, no character, no uppercase, no lowercase, anything has to be there. It should be only numeric. And the second clause is, my second clause is like, it has to be only 10-digit number. Correct? It has to be only 10-digit number. This is what is called as a pattern, and that pattern we name something called as a regular expression. This has been always again said by an automata. This is what we call it as an automata. And next, the most trendy one and the most thing where I literally like to go with this thing, and something called as natural language processing. Yeah, most of the AI uses an automata. In this, I've taken natural language processing just because where you guys have been gone through it. For example, all of a sudden, I just take my cell phone, I say like, hey Google, call to Deepak. What it does? It directly go to your contact, search a name called Deepak. If there are 2 to 3 Deepak, it asks me, do you mean Deepak Girinagar, Deepak Jarli, Deepak someone? And I name it and it make a call. And this concept is called as natural language processing. And this natural language processing is majorly used in something called as an artificial intelligence. Okay, this artificial intelligence concept comes in something called an automata. Clear guys? And here the main challenging for artificial intelligence in NLP is something called as linguistic problem. That linguistic problem is, for example, as I've been saying, an Indian guy says the same thing in a different way, a French guy speaks English in different way, and many other things that has to be converted. And this is a main concept behind something called AI. Okay, now, and in the same way, I've been saying a few types of automata. I'm not commenting, these are only 3 types. There are many other types where I'll be explaining in the further classes. Now, I just want you guys to concentrate with these 3. That's sufficient for me. The first thing is something called as finite state automata. It's called finite automata. It's called FA, finite state automata. And next one is something called push down automata. It's called PDA. Where does a PDA comes across? A PDA comes across something called as a compiler. In a compiler, we use something called as PDA. What it does, it gives a block by block statement. It gets loaded to a memory and it gets executed. How would it get loaded to a memory? How would it get executed? I'll be explaining this in a separate classes. Okay, next one. There's something called as a Turing machine. And Turing machine also work in the same way as in PDA. The main agenda behind Turing machine, this is the one thing which I want everyone to go through with. A Turing machine is the one, a concept which came somewhere across a 1970s, 1960s. Okay, there where an automata came after Turing machine, where the automata came. I'm commenting in the 1970s a Turing machine came, and even now many people are working in something called as deep Turing machine concept. They're working something called as a deep Turing machine concept. Here where it plays a major role. I mean, see, even I want to be a techie, many things we have to do it. Like after graduating from engineering, many ask like, sir, I have been studied 58 subject in my engineering career. In the entire 58 subject, none of a subject where I have been used it. I'm just doing some other code. Guys, it's not like that. If you want to be a normal developer, you have to go through with something called as a software. You have to go through with something called as a language. You have to go out as the language syntax work. If you learn that, that's sufficient. The background of everything is something called as engineering, where we learn everything. If you want to be a developer, that's sufficient. Assume that you want to be an entrepreneur. I mean, I want to create my own company, dude. Like I have to work on my company and I have to build few projects. If so, you have to know with many subjects in engineering. For example, one of the subject is an automata. And as you forget about being an entrepreneur, assume that I want to work in R&D field. I want to work in a company, a reputed one, IISE, Indian Institute of Science. If you know you want to work in Indian Institute of Science, guys, this is a subject where you guys will still on. ISE calls for an internships, ISE calls for an new buddies kind of thing. This subject, if you are a master in that, you're always in. Okay, and this is all about why I have to use a Finite Automata and where all the applications comes under a Finite Automata. And further things I'll be explaining you in the further classes. And thank you. And